Thank you for joining us at 11. I'm Len Stevens. We begin tonight with a very sad update to a story we first brought to you at 6. A toddler struck by an SUV in a driveway this afternoon in Amherst has died. Emergency crews rushed the little girl to the hospital after the accident right around 4 on Grandview Terrace, but doctors could not save that little girl. Today, the parents of slain teen Trayvon Martin, who was unarmed when shot and killed by a neighborhood watch volunteer in Florida, went to Washington to meet with lawmakers. Martin's parents attended a special House Judiciary Committee forum on the controversial Stand Your Ground law at the heart of their son's case.
Trayvon was our son, but Trayvon is your son.
That's right.
A lot of people can relate to our situation, and it breaks their heart just like it breaks mine.
The man who shot Martin, George Zimmerman, says he fired in self-defense. The Orlando Sentinel has printed leaked details of Zimmerman's account of what happened. According to the paper, Zimmerman claims Martin punched him in the nose and slammed his head against the ground. No charges have been filed. Tonight, students at Virginia Tech marched in Martin's honor. They called it the Hoodie March for Trayvon Martin. Many say a heinous crime has been committed here and charges against Zimmerman do need to be filed. Mark Kelly was at this march tonight. Mark?
Len, the organizer let the student body know through Facebook they were marching for Martin. Tonight, around 200 showed up to join in.
All we just want is justice for Trayvon at the end of the day.
And so they marched side by side for everyone to see. A small but powerful way to ask that justice be done without speaking a single word. Kelsey Sams organized this silent march.
I think silence speaks louder than words, so just having a silent march just to spread awareness and let him and his family know that Virginia Tech cares.
Organizers say this is not a political protest. This is a silent march. That means no fighting, no chanting, and no signs like this. These had to stay on the sidelines.
But hoodies were allowed. Trayvon Martin was wearing one when George Zimmerman shot and killed him. The hoodies become a symbol of justice. Some say injustice in this case.
It just represents that what he was wearing. He was supposedly just suspicious because he had a hoodie on while he was walking.
Many marchers believe the killing to be racially motivated.
The majority do think that the shooting had something to do with his race.
What do you think?
Me personally, I do believe the race was a factor.
And in 2012, these marchers say racism can't be tolerated.
When asked about racism, one black student said, quote, "I knew it was still out there. I just haven't experienced it, so I didn't know how bad it really was." Len.
Mark Kelly reporting live. The Virginia Tech Board of Visitors has passed a resolution that will now allow the university to force anyone on that campus to conform to its weapons rules. While the policy of having no weapons in buildings or at sporting events there is nothing new, the language of the rule only made those affiliated with the university subject to the rule. To comply with the Attorney General, the Board of Visitors has now changed the weapons policy into a regulation.
A policy applies only to the university or the university's constituents. A regulation, because it's gone through a regulatory process, will apply to anyone.
The penalty for breaking this new regulation remains the same. Students, faculty, and employees will face the university. Others could face a trespassing charge. It's going to be at least until tomorrow before Danville and parts of Pittsylvania County may be off that boil water advisory. Officials say the huge storm over the weekend caused the soil to become oversaturated. The extra contaminants ran into the Dan River, and it was too much for the water treatment plant to handle. This advisory has really hurt local restaurants. Many have been forced to close. The Danville Regional Medical Center had to bring in tanker trucks of water. Danville Public Schools passed out water bottles today to try and meet health standards. Officials say while it is inconvenient, it's important that you follow their instructions.
It just creates a lot of problems. But we wanted, our main concern was safety and health of our customers.
We're going to keep you updated and let you know when that advisory is lifted. A Roanoke man has been arrested and charged with malicious wounding. Roanoke police arrested Richard Burrow after he was released from the hospital today. Police say on March 19th, a 95-year-old woman had been assaulted and was taken to the hospital. They tell us Burrow was also taken to the hospital. Police say the assault happened in the 4200 block of Bel Air Circle. A Bedford County man will spend 3 years in prison for his role in a deadly car accident. The accident happened 2 years ago on Goodview Road. State police say James Morrow was drunk and driving in the wrong lane, headed east on Goodview, when he crashed his car head-on with a pickup truck. The passenger in the car with Morrow died in that wreck. Morrow also has to pay $4,500 in restitution and spend 7 years on probation.
Good evening, I'm meteorologist Sean Sublett, and although it's been clear for much of the day, we've seen a few scattered clouds drifting in over the past few hours or so, but certainly no precipitation to be found beneath these clouds, just a few high, thin ones decorating the nighttime sky. Temperature down to 46 now into Lynchburg. We'll be in the low and mid 40s these next few hours or so before the wake-up temperatures go down into the 30s. Despite the chilly start, it looks dramatically warmer tomorrow than compared to today. More on that in the forecast in a few minutes. Len.
Sean, everybody's talking about the Mega Millions tonight. We're going to have the winning numbers for you as soon as we get them in here. The Mega Millions jackpot has climbed to the third highest on record. That has a lot of people really hoping to strike it big. The owner of the Sunshine Market in Lynchburg says the $363 million up for grabs had their ticket sales today up about 50%. People have been coming in, they say, with all kinds of strategies to pick the winning numbers, including even using a psychic to try and help them get the winning numbers. There was another small victory for supporters of state facilities like the Central Virginia Training Center. Last night, the Virginia Senate passed a budget amendment offering alternatives to closing training centers. This comes after a federal judge ruled the Department of Justice settlement does not force the state to close the training centers. The Senate amendment looks at consolidating or downsizing instead. It's another ray of hope for families who want to have the option of keeping their loved ones there.
We don't want the executive branch compelling us to leave to less than adequate care. So we need both community and training center, not either or.
Local legislators are cautioning family members not to get too excited. They point out the state budget is not yet finalized and the House still has to agree to that amendment. Roanoke County School Board has adopted a version of the 2012-2013 budget. Right now, the preliminary version of the budget totals more than $130 million. They say it'll probably be adjusted because the school district will have to wait to see how much state funding will be allocated for the fiscal year. Officials say the budget does not include school closings or layoffs of contracted employees. They say the budget does include a 2% salary increase. Lynchburg area educators say it's a scam that continues to fool people. They say con artists are targeting those trying to get their GEDs online. The problem is several dishonest businesses are offering fake tests, even sending out worthless certificates. Many of them are charging between $200 and $1,200 to take the test. The real test is a whole lot cheaper.
The only cost that's involved is when they actually take the GED test, which right now is $58.
Oh, just $58. Now, many websites out there are saying you can take the test online. GED administrators tell us the test is only given in person. You cannot take it online. That is a scam. The Academy of Fine Arts in Lynchburg gave a generous donation to the Daily Bread Soup Kitchen thanks to a fundraising event. Through the 4th annual Empty Bowls event held on March 3rd, the group raised more than $5,000. That's nearly double the amount raised before. For the fundraiser, Potters donated bowls and local restaurants and businesses donated food for the guests. Officials say the bowls were meant as a reminder that there are empty bowls and stomachs out there in the world. After the pilot on a JetBlue flight became incoherent and started yelling, the co-pilot made some big decisions. The plane ended up making an emergency landing after being diverted. I'll tell you about that. And a man found himself trapped and drowning in mud. Look at that guy. This was in Georgia. Fire crews had to help him out of that very dangerous situation. Danville fire officials are investigating arsons, a number of them, now 5 reported, and neighbors there are getting really worried about them. In the John Edwards trial, former aide Andrew Young's wife again took the stand today, how she described her emotional reaction when she says she found out Edwards wanted her husband to lie. And a Kroger store in Lynchburg is helping raise money to help an employee in the hospital. Co-workers say the 22-year-old suffered a stroke. How you can help.
Anytime, anywhere. Award-winning coverage you can count on. This is ABC 13 News.
I'm Len Stevens. Thank you for joining us at 7. Parts of our area still under a severe thunderstorm watch. Let's head right over to the Weather Center and Sean, who's tracking everything tonight. Sean.
Hey, best thing I could tell you, Lynn, is over the last 15 minutes, several counties were discontinued from that watch. Basically, Central Virginia has been released, so the only areas still under that watch are the South Side Virginia communities. That's where a little line of showers and thunderstorms kind of hugging the North Carolina, Virginia line down through Henry County, and some of this extending eastward into Pittsylvania County near Danville. Not severe for the time being, but we do have some very heavy rain and some vivid lightning with this particular cell that's just to the southwestern side of Martinsville on a beeline toward Ridgeway. So again, we'll still look off to the west for the threat for scattered showers and thunderstorms the next few hours. Otherwise, the temperatures hold into the 70s. We'll talk about just how hot it's going to be in the forecast in just a few minutes. Len?
Thank you, Sean. New at 7, 2 people are recovering after being struck by lightning today in Halifax. We're told 2 cousins in their 20s were hit while standing on their front porch. Crews took them both to the hospital. The Halifax County Sheriff's Office says 26-year-old Jennifer Duffy has now been released. They tell us 29-year-old Shelley Beatles is also going to be released. Deputies say their injuries are not life-threatening, but pretty unusual. We're going to have more for you on this tonight on 13 News at 11. Throughout our area, voters took to the polls in a slew of local elections today. In Danville, they just closed. Votes are being tallied for city council and school board members. James Girardi was at the polls today, is live for us now from our Danville studio with more. James, how was the turnout there on the south side?
Len, it really wasn't nearly as high as many had expected. I just spoke with the voter registrar who told me she doesn't think turnout in the city will break 20%. At 4 p.m., most of the city's 17 precincts were reporting around 12%, with higher turnout precincts reporting just 18. That's a far cry from 22% in 2008 and 20 in 2010. On the ballot in Danville, 5 city council seats being fought for by 7 candidates. 2 of them are newcomers, 24-year-old Lee Vogler and the Reverend Thomas Motley. Also up for grabs, 4 seats on the 5-member school board. A lot of people we saw at the polls today said with all the talk of closing schools and budget blunders, they're ready for some change.
I think people feel that they need a change, and they are coming out to vote.
These are the people that represent us here in the city, so we should be able to decide who makes those decisions for us.
The registrar's office did not say that the recently passed Virginia state voter identification laws were a reason for the low turnout. She did mention, however, that city council and school board elections tend to have a much lower turnout than others. We'll be sure to bring you the latest election results tonight as they come in. Reporting live in our Danville studio, James Girardi, ABC 13 News.
There are a number of other local races, of course, being decided today. In Roanoke, voters are selecting the mayor. The race between incumbent David Bowers and Mark Lucas. City council seats in Roanoke also on the ballot. For a full list of election results, log on to WSET.com and tune in to ABC 13 News at 11. Again, the polls now closed. There are a couple of contested races in Lynchburg City Council everybody's keeping an eye on. Lynchburg City Council member Caesar Johnson faces Larry Taylor in Ward 2. The other contested race is in Ward 1. That's Mike Gillette versus John Richards. As of noon today, 1,400 voters had cast a ballot across the city. Of course, the precincts are expecting people to wait until after work. They were expecting them to wait until after work. We're going to have a recap of the winners tonight at 11. On the national front, the president made a surprise trip to Afghanistan today that coincides with the 1-year anniversary of the U.S. mission that killed Osama bin Laden. The president will address the nation tonight from Bagram Airfield at 7:30. Stick around right after this newscast. ABC News will air a special report with that speech. Very sad news out of Campbell County today. A 4-year-old boy from Rustburg is dead after an accident this morning on Route 460. It happened around 8:30 on Doss Road. Deputies say the boy was riding with his mother, Jocelyn Bealey of Rustburg. They say she did not come to a complete stop on Doss Road before continuing on to 460. And that's when a van hit the rear driver's side of her vehicle. Andrew Johnson was in a booster seat and died later at the hospital. Deputies say his mother was just hysterical and taken to the hospital and admitted. Charges are pending for the 23-year-old Bealey. Officials are seeing if wet roads may have played a factor here. The driver of the van is not going to be charged. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office says 2 people who broke into homes in the middle of the day have been arrested in South Carolina. 35-year-old Christopher Meeks of Stewart and 19-year-old Amber Cormier of Radford are facing multiple charges of breaking and entering. And we're told the 2 were stopped yesterday in Spartanburg, South Carolina for a traffic violation. The 2 showed up on the National Crime Information Center. Investigators say they've gotten a confession and some of the stolen property has now been recovered. The man the Henry County Sheriff's Office has been waiting for finally turned himself in. Lamont Woods is charged for a shooting that deputies say led to a car accident that killed 4 people, including a 6-month-old baby. The 21-year-old from Martinsville has been arrested, so far being held without bond. He faces several charges, including attempted murder and malicious wounding. So far, those charges are only into connection with the death of Lamar Ward. The Sheriff's Office is still waiting for final autopsy results. They say more charges could be pending. Sherry Young, the wife of John Edwards' former aide, Andrew Young, is back on the stand today in North Carolina after a dramatic day of testimony yesterday. Scott Goldberg reports.
For Sherry Young, it was so hard just to talk about the moment she was dragged into the John Edwards mess, she couldn't make it through her testimony. The judge asked the jury to leave until the mother of three could pull it together. The painful moment came when she described the day her husband, Andrew Young, took her to a McDonald's drive-thru and told her Edwards wanted him to lie and say he was the father of the love child born to Rielle Hunter. I was mad. I was upset, Sherry Young testified. Of course I said absolutely not. I screamed at him. I cursed at him. 2 years ago, she talked about that very moment on 2020.
How could you ask me that? How could John Edwards ask you to do that?
In court, Young said she asked Edwards herself if it was legal for her and her husband to handle money from wealthy donors meant to support Hunter. Quote, I heard Mr. John Edwards tell me on the phone that he checked with the campaign lawyers and this was legal. Through her tears, she said she, quote, went along with the lie because she was worried the campaign would explode and I would be responsible.
The reason that she and Andrew Young did this was for politics. The reason the money in her mind was coming in was to protect his campaign.
That is the central question in this case. Was the hush money political, or was John Edwards simply trying to hide an affair, as his lawyers will argue, from his wife, Elizabeth?
Sherry Young will be back on the stand today. Strategically, she's a more sympathetic witness than her husband, who testified he pocketed much of that money so the Youngs could build their dream home. Scott Goldberg, ABC News, New York.
All right, and moving along, one health center in Danville is going to be getting a lot of help thanks to a government grant. Piedmont Access to Health Services of Danville is going to receive $2.4 million to help with capital improvements. The grants are funded through the Affordable Care Act. More than $16 million in funding was awarded to health centers throughout the Commonwealth. Virginia Tech has a new head basketball coach, James Johnson. The former Ferrum player was introduced today in Blacksburg. Athletic Director Jim Weaver says he thinks Tech has struck gold here. He does not have any head coaching experience, but his previous ties to Tech were one of, if not the main reason, he got the job. Johnson said at a news conference today he looks forward to moving that program forward. Lynchburg police are going to be at CC's Pizza tomorrow for a special fundraiser. They're taking part in the Special Olympics Dough Raiser to support Special Olympics Virginia. If you mention Special Olympics at CC's Pizza on Candlers Mountain Road from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., 10% of your bill will be donated to the cause. The officers will also be taking donations for icons to cover the cruiser. If you'd like more information on that, we have a link for you at WSET.com. After a number of fires in Danville, investigators are trying to find out who's responsible for what they say are arsons, a lot of them. And if you sit at a desk all day, there are ways you can be active. How one company in the Commonwealth is really taking the initiative to get its employees healthy.